Hello, my name is Aubrey. Today I want to talk about all of the graphic novels and manga that I read in 2022. 2022 was a really weird year for me. I was in one of the worst reading slumps that I've ever been in. Maybe not the worst of my entire life, but definitely the worst that I've had since starting BookTube, and there was a large chunk of time in the middle of 2022 that I just could not read a book to save my life. I would sit down and try to read, and I just could not do it. And I would try to listen to audiobooks, and I would tell myself like, oh, just listen for 5 minutes. And I would listen for 5 minutes and I would turn it off. I don't know. I just could not bring myself to read novels. Anyway, the thing that I was reading consistently was manga. I felt really drawn to more visual mediums, and I really let myself let go of this idea that I needed to be reading novels like all the time. I stopped making myself listen to audiobooks, and I just kind of leaned into reading manga, and I just let that be. I was waking up early before work so that I could sit down with my breakfast and read manga, and I just really fell in love with that. I did that pretty consistently all year, and I've carried it into 2023. And so today I just want to go over everything that I read last year. I didn't make a lot of content because I was kind of embarrassed about the fact that I wasn't reading a lot of novels. And, that was what my content had been based on previously, and so I just wasn't sure how to make content about manga now, especially when I knew that eventually my interest in reading novels would come back. Like, I knew that it wasn't forever, the slump ended up being so much longer than I thought it would be. Anyway, it's nice to be back, and let's just get into it. Okay, so the first series that I ended up reading in 2022, can I even hold these up, was Fruits Basket. I read all 12 of these bind-ups of Fruits Basket. I'm gonna set these down, hold on. Fruits Basket is a really nostalgic series for me. This was one of the first mangas that I ever picked up when I was in middle school, and I remember loving it, but I never finished it because, manga's expensive and I didn't have a lot of money back then. So this has been one that I have wanted to return to for a very, very long time, and I finally did this year. I loved revisiting this. It's just such a comfy, cozy, tragic world. So in this series, we're following our main character, Toru, and she, through certain shenanigans, ends up living with this very mysterious family, the Somas. And the Somas have a secret. Some of the family members can change into the animals of the Chinese zodiac. So there's the rat, there's the monkey, there's the horse, etc. And this is a really huge secret that she stumbles upon, and she gets invited to come live with a few members of the family in order to kind of keep the secret. She also has no other place to live, so it's in everyone's best interest. And through living with this family, she gets to know all of the different members of the zodiac, all of their very tragic, traumatic histories, these intertwining family secrets and mysteries, and just, it's so good. There is a heavy emphasis on romance. At the beginning, there's a bit of a love triangle between her and the two boys that she's living with, which is very entertaining. And there are little side relationships as well throughout the series. But I just want to say that I feel like this series is so much more than just a romance. Not that there's anything wrong with wanting to just read a romance. I feel like some people might be turned off by the idea of this series because it is romance heavy, but there's so much depth to it. There's so much depth to the characters. Toru is one of those main characters that's so likable because she's just like a really, really good person, and she can see into the heart of anyone that she meets. Like, I feel like every time she meets someone, she understands them and empathizes with them, and on such a deep level that it just makes her so likable and endearing. I just think she's a great protagonist. She's so willing to put everyone else first before herself and to, take care of everyone. I just really like her, and I find her just a really likable protagonist, and I think this whole series is really wonderful. The series is definitely showing its age in some places, but overall I think it still holds up so well. It's absolutely fantastic. The art style just gets better and better as it goes on. It's one of my favorites. I would probably give this whole series a 5 out of 5 stars, maybe a 4.75 if I was being nitpicky, but I think this one is still absolutely fantastic. The next series that I read after the high of Fruits Basket was another shoujo, which is Daytime Shooting Star. This one I ended up having a lot of problems with. We're following our main character, Suzumi, who goes to live with her uncle, and there, shortly after arriving, she stumbles into a mysterious stranger and kind of develops a crush, and then it turns out that this mysterious man ends up being her high school teacher, which yikes, right? I was recommended this series from a friend of mine who's really into shoujo, and because of that, I think I had higher expectations of it than maybe I should have. So she develops this crush on her teacher, and the first few volumes are really exploring that kind of teenage angst of having this crush on someone that you can't be in a relationship with, which, like, I can appreciate. I was a teenager once. I definitely had crushes on my teachers. Like, it's, a painful place to be in, right? To like someone romantically that you cannot be with. However, the issues for me started when the teacher started to reciprocate those feelings for her. And while, spoiler alert, sorry, like I would have wanted to know this going into it, so sorry. If you don't want any spoilers, just skip ahead. The series doesn't actually end up going there between the two of them. They date a little bit, they hold hands, there's an almost kiss, but the series doesn't actually go there, which I do appreciate, but I wish they had explored like the problems of a student-teacher relationship a little bit more. Like, they go into some of the downsides, like not being able to be open about your relationship, not being able to like go on dates out in public and like tell your family members. Yes, those are downsides, but there's like a lot more to it, in my opinion, of what's wrong with a relationship like that. Power dynamics, someone being an adult versus being a literal child. I don't know, I got a little bit frustrated, but I did appreciate that the series doesn't go there, and I did end up liking the ending. It just was kind of painful to get there because I didn't enjoy the student-teacher relationship as it was unfolding. I'd probably give this whole series like a 3 out of 5 stars. If you really like shoujo and you like high school romances like this, you'll probably like it. From what I hear, I think the fact that she doesn't choose the teacher is kind of refreshing for the genre. Not a bad series, just probably not one that I'll reread. So after that, I read volume 1 of The Tea Dragon Society. This is by Katie O'Neill. It's, just a tiny little graphic novel, but it is honestly so delightful. The art style alone is worth the read, and I don't even want to talk about it because it's so short. I just feel like you should go in and experience it yourself, but it's adorable. It's so precious. If you like, I don't know, fantasy cottagecore, this is for you. Okay, and then after that, I binge read all of the Heartstopper volumes. I only have this first one physically. I do plan to buy the rest of them. I read these online, actually. You can read Heartstopper online for free. That's what I did, because I wasn't entirely sure it would be for me, since I'm mostly a fantasy lover, and this is not fantasy, but I fell in love with Heartstopper. Of course I did. The hype for this is justified, in my opinion. This is just like a warm cup of like hot cocoa. It's just like, it's so wholesome and so sweet. We're following 2 boys. Nick is gay and out with his friend's family, the entire school. Everybody knows. And Charlie, who is this, I don't know, old-fashioned, blonde, rugby-playing boy who everyone thinks is straight until he meets Nick and they fall in love, and it's just The cutest, oh my god, it's so cute. It's so cute. It's just the most precious thing in the world. And I think what I love the most about it is how cozy and safe it feels, you know? I feel like this was just really refreshing to read. Nothing, I don't know, nothing really terrible happens. There's no like CW drama. If you know what I mean. Like there were times when I really thought that I knew what was going to happen because I'm so used to that type of storytelling where like something so dramatic happens and so awful. And I kept waiting for those moments and then being just pleasantly surprised when they didn't happen and things were resolved in just like a very normal way. And that might make it sound like it's not that interesting, but it is. It's so readable. I don't know how to describe the magic that is Heartstopper because it's not like it's not like a lot happens, but it's so readable. I binge read it all in like a couple of days, like 2 days, like 2 sittings. I read the whole thing. It's an absolute delight. Read it if you haven't. Okay, after that, I read Fangirl Volume 1. This is exactly what it seems. It's a manga-ization of the novel Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. And I read Fangirl several years ago. I enjoyed it. I liked the college setting, and I liked the story of a really shy girl who wouldn't leave her room because I could heavily relate to her. But, you know, it was the kind of book that I only wanted to read once. I didn't think it was something I would ever revisit, so I got rid of it. And later, once I fell in love with Simon Snow books back here, I kind of regretted getting rid of Fangirl because Fangirl has all of these chapters of Simon and Baz, which, you know, at the time when I read Fangirl, I think I skipped all of those chapters because they just did not interest me. They had nothing to do with the plot. Like, I just didn't care at that time. And I'd been kind of thinking about picking up another copy of Fangirl to read the Simon and Baz chapters because the trilogy's over and now I have nothing to, you know, I have no more Simon and Baz content. So I was like, maybe I'll go back and read the chapters from Fangirl. And so I saw this on Amazon and I was like, what is that? So yeah, I bought it. It's, you know, it is what it is. It's the novel in manga form, and it really has been fun to revisit the story because it's been a while and I don't remember that much about it. I think there's going to be like 4 of these, so I'll be on the lookout for the rest of them because this was fun. Okay, next I read the first 7 volumes of Spy Family. This was all that was out at the time. These are not in order. So this is what I read. This series has been getting a lot of hype lately, I think because of the anime, and I can attest to the fact that it's really great. We're following this just little like hodgepodge family. We've got our main character-ish, Twilight, who is a spy and he's been sent on this mission to get information from a schoolboy, so he has to sort of very last minute come up with a family, and he ends up adopting this little girl named Anya. He adopts her so that she can go to the same school as this boy that he needs to get close to, and what he doesn't know is that Anya is a telepath and she can read his mind. You know, of course, to make the family complete and the least suspicious, he also has to find a wife. So he ends up marrying an assassin who also needs to get married so that she doesn't look suspicious, and nobody knows what's going on except for Anya because she's a telepath. So Twilight doesn't know that he married an assassin. Yor, the assassin, doesn't know that she married a spy, and shenanigans ensue. It's just really charming. It's a lot of fun. It's very silly. It's incredibly like over the top, like almost borderline campy, but it's great. It works, and it has this just lovely, wholesome, like found family aspect to it because all of these, you know, you've got this family that's sort of now come together, and it's really good. I highly recommend it. So far, volumes 1 through 7, I'd give a 5 out of 5 stars. Okay, and then after that, I read volumes 1 through 7 of Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. It's not gross. I promise it's not gross. He's a little spirit who haunts a girl's toilet, like Moaning Myrtle from Harry Potter. And in this series, we're following Hanako-kun, who is one of the 7 mysteries of the school. And we're also following a girl, Nene, who comes to him to have him grant her a wish, but that ends up backfiring, and she kind of ends up like working for him, but they become friends. And I don't know, through the series they just are kind of investigating like the other 7 mysteries in the school and just like other supernatural happenings and that kind of thing. I really love the art style for these, so that's like the real reason that I picked them up. I just wanted to try them out and see if they were any good, because I just really like how they look. And I will say that I have enjoyed the series. It starts off relatively tamely, and then it's gotten a lot darker as you go. I've only read up to volume 7, but there are like 14 or 15 out so far, so I do need to read the rest of them. I just haven't gotten to that yet, but I will, because I do like the series. These I would give like a 4 out of 5, 3.7 out of 5. Fun, especially if you like that kind of supernatural element, and I definitely think the art is like a big appeal for me. Next I read The Flowers of Evil by Suzo Oshimi. I have really wanted to get into Suzo Oshimi's work. Specifically, I really want to read, oh, what's that really creepy one that's quite popular right now? Blood on the Tracks, but he's got a couple of others that are kind of famous, this being one of them. This is a complete series. I saw it on Right Stuff and decided to pick it up. This is quite possibly the most fucked up thing I've ever read. It's quite a story. I don't even know how to talk about this series. We're following our main character, Kasuga, who is in middle school, probably like on the cusp of puberty, like going through puberty. And he's got this crush on this girl in his class. And one day he stays after school and he notices that the girl he has a crush on has left her gym bag like out in the open. And he decides, in a moment of teenage lust and angst, to steal it and bring it home. And the next day, the whole school is in an uproar because this young girl's gym clothes were stolen. They think there's a pervert on the loose. It turns out that this other girl in his class, named Nakamura, actually saw him steal the gym bag. And she basically blackmails him into doing all of this fucked up stuff. Just like, oh my god, just like the most fucked up stuff. It's just weird. It's just a really weird series. We sort of follow him down this dark path of sort of doing all of these corrupted things. And of course, at first, he really hates doing them, but then he starts to kind of revel in it. And I feel like you can either see it as him being corrupted by this girl or just kind of becoming who he really is. It's a hard series to talk about because I feel like I'm almost not smart enough to really know what this series was trying to do. I will say that it was definitely a page turner. Like there's not a lot of dialogue. It's just mostly pictures used in the storytelling, so it didn't take very long to read, and I read through them very quickly because I wanted to know what was going to happen. Yeah, I don't know. Definitely not a series for everyone. If this interests you at all, definitely look for trigger warnings and that kind of thing if you're someone who is triggered, because there's a lot of messed up stuff that happens in here. So yeah, I'm not even sure what I would rate this. There's like a part of me that would rate it like 3 out of 5 stars because of just how weird it is, but then there's a part of me that would rate it 5 out of 5 stars because of how weird it is, you know? So yeah, it's good, just not for everybody. And then the last series that I have to talk about is Monster by Naoki Urasawa. And this is another really famous mangaka that I have been wanting to get into. He's done a lot of really famous series like 20th Century Boys and Pluto. This is the one I decided to start with because it just sounded the most interesting to me. It's kind of a psychological mystery. I hesitate to call it a thriller because it is a 9-volume series that will likely take you a long time to read and it is paced sometimes a little bit slowly. So it almost feels like a thriller, but I don't know, I feel like it's too long to really call it a thriller. But it is absolutely excellent. I think I will probably end up doing like a full series review for these because I liked them so much. We are following our main character, Kenzo, who is a very well-respected surgeon. He's like the top of his game, the best in the hospital. If you need a surgery, like you want this guy to do it. He's engaged to the hospital director's daughter, and the hospital director favors him because he's so good at his job, and like things are looking really good for him. And one day he's faced with a dilemma where this young orphan boy is rolled in with a gunshot to his head, and he's about to go into the surgery, and he's basically told that no, actually someone much more important has come to the hospital and you need to do surgery on him instead. Kenzo is incredibly conflicted about this because the boy was there first, and he's in a much more critical condition. He's like literally the only one who could save the boy's life. He chooses to disregard his orders and save the boy's life. This, of course, derails his life. He falls out of favor with the hospital director, his fiance breaks up with him, and he's basically told that he can continue to be a doctor at this hospital, but he is not allowed to continue his research. He is not going to be able to, I don't know, work on like the good surgeries. He's basically been completely screwed over by this choice that he made. And there's something about him not being able to like transfer to other hospitals because the director won't give him a recommendation or something like that. I can't remember the whole of it, but basically his life is ruined until the hospital director and a couple of other higher-ups are murdered, and Kenzo's life starts to get better. After that, he becomes chief of surgery, and his status and his ability to do what he really loves, which is being a doctor, it all starts to go his way. Of course, he becomes a murder suspect because he benefited so highly from the murders that took place. Now, of course, our main guy didn't do it. We know he didn't do it, but it leads him to go on the run and to try to prove what really happened, maybe to try to take out a serial killer. Who knows? And it's just really great. It's like fully excellent. I feel like people throw around the word masterpiece a little too much. But I feel like this series is like actually a masterpiece. Like the way that everything is woven, how all the different little pieces of the mystery and the story come together was just so brilliantly done. And I was so impressed by the storytelling and the characters, and just like everything about it was truly so great. I think what I love most is our main character Kenzo, because he is just like relentlessly a good person. We see him being put into just like awful situation after awful situation, and you watch him get out of those situations by being a really good person. Some really awful person is dying on the floor. Kenzo chooses to save their life because he's a doctor and that's what he does. You know, even if that person is like holding him hostage, he's going to do the right thing. And it's not in a kind of like annoying goody two-shoes way. It's just in a like, this is who he is, and he can't just sit by and let someone die if he can do something about it. And if he's in a situation where he thinks he can help out in some way, make a difference to someone, he's going to do that. And it's just, he's so endearing, and you know, watching him go down this really dark path is really heartbreaking, and you're rooting for him to like come out of it alive, but also to come out of it with like his soul intact, you know, because he's like such a pure person. And it's really, really brilliant. And again, I think I will end up doing a series review for these because they're just so good, and I feel like I can't wrap up all of my thoughts and feelings in this shorter type of format. I mean, definitely trigger warnings for this series because it does get quite dark. Definitely like adults only, like 18 plus, maybe even like 20 plus. It gets really dark in some places, and really gruesome and horrific. So, you know, definitely not a series for everyone. If you want to get into manga, but you're more interested in like more sophisticated manga, this is for you. Also, if you like mysteries, thrillers, horror, it's incredible. I highly recommend it. Okay, so that's it. That's all the manga and graphic novels that I read in 2022. Honestly, it was a pretty good year in terms of quality of what I read. I mean, you just watched the video, but I enjoyed pretty much everything that I read. And yeah, that's always nice to look back on your year and be like, yeah, like it was good. I liked all the things that I liked all the things that I read. So that's nice. yeah, please, did you read any manga this past year? Any graphic novels that you love? If you have any recommendations for me, please leave them in the comments. And please like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I hope to see you next time. Bye.